What's up YouTube? I'm Trent Wel-Don. Welcome back to the channel. So in my live stream that I did with Guppy Guru and Bay Area Aquatics, a question that came up is, what are some easy plants to grow? So today, I wanted to kind of take that opportunity and talk to you about where I get my plants and what are some of my favorite plants that are actually very easy to grow. So we're in a little different space. I'm actually down in my basement right now. I wish to say this is like the new fish room, but the new fish room is actually in the other corner. But it worked out because there's a light above and I was able to. Anyways, so different space. I'm kind of utilizing what I have. We're actually setting up a plant storage tank down here right now. I will show you that at the end of the video. But right now I needed to unbox the most recent plant order I got. And I thought it was a perfect opportunity to kind of show you what are my favorite plants as well as what I think are some really easy plants to actually grow. And fortunately, Michael with Bay Area Aquatics agreed to chip in for this video, so we will be hearing from Michael as well on what his favorite plants are. And Peter with Guppy Guru, he's working on something behind the scenes of this video, so there's gonna be, this is the collaboration we came up with, so you're gonna hear from myself and Michael, and then you'll have to go over to Guppy Guru's channel when he releases his video on actually talking about substrate. It's gonna be a great video, but let's get into what I have. So it's kind of been a good day. I'm starting work down here tonight. I'm still a few weeks off before we officially start building down here, but it was a good night to get some things started and then continue. So I've got a bunch of plants here to unbox. I think I maybe have over like 10 plants to unbox. So it's a large order, and this is the majority of the plants I'm actually going to be using in the new fish room. And some of these, a majority of these are for the 90 cube. So a lot of people are excited about. So one of the places, probably the #1 place I get my plants from is from Aquarium Co-op. Their packaging is excellent. I really like how they do it. And I mainly get I buy most of my plants from there. They have really good prices, really good quality. I've never been concerned about any of that. And I'm not one that I want the super rare plants. I've actually have been there, done that. And I just think for the pricing that I can get, like here, this is a nice, I believe this is the Crypt Tropica. Very similar to the Crypt when Deadeye. I love these kind of crypts. Crypticorn is the full name of it. Again, these are coming in that pot with the rock wool around them. But these have a nice bronze tint to them that if you add some iron into your water, which Aquarium Co-op sells, these are gonna get a nice bronze coloration, a red tint to them. Now crypts are a heavy root feeding plant. That's why they're gonna have these long roots that are gonna come up with. And I find with a little light, they will grow and they will grow very well. Now part of that too is that they actually grow kind of nice and big and bushy. So that's one reason why I like them so much, is that they are a heavy root feeding plant, but beyond that, they're also very easy to get nutrients to. So here, this is another Crypt when Deadeye. So as you can see, we had some big stems come off of this, but there's also a bunch of new growth happening right here. So one of the things that Aquarium Co-op focuses on is getting these plants to grow in a submerged state versus an emerged state. Now the difference is when they're growing above the water, and they may have the roots in the water, they're getting unlimited CO2, potentially unlimited amounts of light. Then you add them fully submerged into water, and you're gonna lose a lot of that. You're gonna have what's called melt back. So a lot of people are gonna say like, oh my gosh, your crypts are coming in so rough. This is all melt back. I guarantee you these came, so Corey really focuses on trying to land them, get them growing underwater, so when you get them, you have great success with the plants. I'm not disappointed in these plants at all. So yeah, that's what he focuses on. Like I was saying, most people will buy these plants, and then when they don't grow or they die back, then you run into a lot of problems and they blame the vendor, right? So this is one of the ones I was really excited for. This is an African water fern, or a bulbitis plant. Now one of the things I love about this plant, this is gonna grow just huge and monstrous, and it's gonna look fantastic in the 220 gallon. But something different to this is what is a rhizome plant. Now it's gonna have roots that come off of it. You do not wanna plant this into your substrate. You actually want to tie this down, maybe super glue it to a rock, a piece of driftwood, shove it in a crevice, and let it grow in the water column. So it's gonna take most of its nutrients from the water column. But this is a plant that I've actually been looking for quite a while. Really happy I found this plant. But as you can tell, I think most of these plants in here are crypts. That by far is my favorite plant. Super simple to grow. Most people want something that you can put into the substrate and kind of forget about. This is a sword plant, but this is the red flame sword. So again, this is gonna get nice and long, but it's gonna have another heavy root feeding plant. So the sword will go into your substrate again, but you're gonna need to make sure that you fertilize it properly. And that's a whole nother video. Is another mistake people will make is they will put these Amazon swords into their substrate and think that they're just gonna grow. That was the first mistake I made when I actually tried to keep live plants in my very first tanks years ago. Was I put these plants into the substrate and just left them and was shocked when they died. Well, I wasn't giving them enough nutrients. So something like a sword plant, you're gonna want to give it an area where those roots can really grow out. But then you may want to use something what's called root tabs, and it's fertilizer in a caplet you put right down in your substrate, and the plant can feed off of that. This is Bacopa. Now this is another style of plant. A lot of people like what is called a stem plant. That cryptwind deadeye really grows out into a bush. Amazon sword is going to grow nice and tall. Then you get something like your Bacopa, which if you can tell is this one big stem with leaves coming off of it. Now a stem plant is another heavy root feeding plant, hence you're gonna get these nice long roots that are coming into this. And this one looks like it's been grown submerged really well, or immersed I think is another term for it. Now this one you're gonna get a lot of root feeding from, so again you may wanna supplement with some root tabs. You're gonna use some water column fertilizer. And then one way you can actually make more of this plant is you can snip it. You cut a piece off, you plant it down in the substrate, and it's eventually gonna grow new roots and create a new plant for you. So guys, I don't think we're gonna go through all of the plants I got. I think I have literally almost like 20 plants here. But I wanted to give you a quick rundown and actually a visual of my favorite easy to grow plants. You see another Crypt Tropica. I'm in love with these kind of crypts. They look so good like a betta tank. These are gonna go in the 90 cube, a few are gonna go in the 220. And I keep bending down because I've got a bucket I'm putting all the plants in so I can transfer them over to the plant holding tank. So there's my take on it. We actually saw a few different varieties of plants. Oh yeah, it's another of my favorites. This is the Crinum calamistratum. This plant has the coolest texture, and it's actually like a bulb plant. So you're gonna wanna plant it like halfway into the substrate, halfway out so you don't choke it. Another super easy one to grow. A lot of water column fertilization, heavy root feeding. But again, you give it a little bit of light and these things are gonna grow like crazy. But anyways, back to what I was saying. You don't need high light to grow any of these plants. You really don't. I have grown these plants under shop lights. I've grown these plants under LED lights. There's so many varieties of lights you can use to grow these plants and grow them well. So if you want something simple, if you're new to plants, check a few of these out. We're gonna continue this series on. I say Bay Area Aquatics is gonna jump into this video. Guppy Guru's got something he's working on in the background. So continue to check these out. And let's go jump over to Bay Area Aquatics, and then we're gonna jump over and I'll show you the plant holding tank I've got, and we'll end the video over there.
Hello, my name is Michael Pohl with Bay Area Aquatics, and today Trent asked me to give you guys a couple of my favorite easy to grow plants. So I'm not going to go super in depth on each plant, but I'm just going to kind of list the name and why I like them and kind of where you would use them in the aquarium. So the first plant that I absolutely love, and it's most of this right here in the 75 gallon, is Pogostemon stellatus octopus. It's a long name, but it's very, very, very easy to grow. It grows like a weed. I started with like 3 stems of it, and now I have so much of it that I can't even know what to do with it. It grows very quickly. It's very hard to kill. It fills in really nice, and it's such a great background plant. If you just want a bunch of green, it is a great plant. I absolutely love it. Highly recommend Pogostemon stellatus octopus. So the second plant that I'm going to talk about is Java moss, and it's one of the most basic plants. You can find it pretty much anywhere, but it looks just so good, and it's easy to grow. It likes low light, doesn't need a lot of fertilizer, likes a slightly colder temperature, but does fine in tropical tanks, and it just looks good. Like, I've got it growing all right here, this big lump of green, that's all Java moss growing on my wood right there. And I also use it in my breeding tanks, and it's really great for live bears and fry. My shrimp love it. It's just a really easy plant. It's a really easy way to add green, and it's slow growing, so it doesn't go crazy. It grows, but not super crazy. And so I really like Java moss just for the breeding aspects of it. It looks good, it's easy to find, and it attaches to pretty much anything and gives it that more natural kind of growing on it look, that kind of wild, like everything growing together versus a random plant being stuck on it. Now, my third favorite plant is going to be kind of a species of plant, if you will, and that's going to be Bucephalandria plants, or boost plants, B-U-C-E. I really like boost plants. They're kind of like an Anubias, or like a rhizome plant that really like needs to attach to something, to a piece of wood or a rock or something like that. But there's so many different types of boost plants, and they're all sorts of different colors and textures, and you get a lot of really cool textures and like deep greens and reds and pinks and browns that you don't get in a lot of aquarium plants. And so I really like boost plants. They tend to be on the pricier side. That is the one downside to them. My favorite boost personally is Boost Catherine. Trent actually gave me a couple of them. I love them. They are great, super, super stunning. Everyone that always sees them is like, wow, what is that? It's a super dark green with some like pink edges on it. It's different. The leaves are thin. It flowers under the water, so you get a flower on it every now and then. And it's just a great plant. Absolutely love it. Super easy to take care of. Just stick it onto something and it grows. My next favorite easy to grow plant is going to be a carpeting plant, which isn't super common in the easy to grow low light area, but dwarf hairgrass. I recently got into it. It's still growing into my tank, but that's this green stuff at the bottom here. I've only had it for a couple of weeks, so it's still kind of growing in. I didn't buy enough to cover the entire tank, and it grows pretty slow. But once it gets established and going, it grows. And it's a really, really fine, really thin kind of like foreground plant that's good to kind of cover up the substrate in the front. Like I said, I didn't want sand just right here. I wanted the plant. I think it looks a lot nicer, and it's slowly growing into all the edges and slowly going that way. Doesn't require a lot of fertilizer. It will appreciate some root tabs or some sort of like planting soil, but it's not needed. I have mine in just basic sand. And yeah, it's just a really nice, really easy to grow carpeting plant that you don't really get in a lot of low-tech tanks. All right, and my last but not least favorite easy to grow plant is one that a lot of people actually aren't a big fan of, but I really like it, specifically for breeding and for shrimp tanks and for like just kind of anywhere where you want some cover and to be able to kind of clean the water. It helps clean the water a lot just because it's a quick growing plant and it sucks a lot of that nutrient out of the water, and that's hornwort. I love it. I have hornwort in all of my ponds. I have hornwort in my shrimp tank. I have hornwort in my guppy tank, in my platy tank, in my rice fish tank. Pretty much any tank that I'm breeding fish in has hornwort because it's just my favorite. Like, it floats and it kind of sticks on everything and it grows in real nice. It grows super quick. It's really cheap. You can pick up a bunch of it on eBay for really cheap. You can find someone local that's just trying to get rid of it. But it's one of my favorite like beginner plants, especially if you're looking to breed or if you just want something that's going to kind of float at the top of the water and be a cool little green plant that fry can hide in. And yeah, I don't want to take up too much of Trent's time, but those are my 5 favorite easy to grow aquarium plants, and hopefully you try a couple of them and hopefully they work out.
All right, so here we are. This is literally underneath the stairs down to my basement. I just needed somewhere to put this while I'm getting the fish room built, but the plants were in. I wanted to get them in. So this is a 27-gallon tote I bought from Home Depot for like $8. I did throw a heater in here just because the water coming out is sitting at like 58 degrees and it's relatively cool down in the basement. So I set this heater to only like 70 degrees just so I don't freeze the plants out. Then I am gonna run a single sponge filter in here. I need to hook up the air pump still. The reason for this is not necessarily biological filtration as much as it is just water movement. I just don't want the water to remain stagnant, but what that also will do is will allow that sponge filter to kind of get seeded with any beneficial bacteria that's going to grow in this tub during that time frame. And we're literally using this simple LED light that is just kind of a desk lamp. It's illuminating it just enough. So again, it's a really rough setup, but this is just a simple plant storage tank I came up with. This is why I'm in the process of getting the fish room built and the tanks up. So guys, there you have it. You've seen most of the unboxing. A lot of the plants I recommend. Things like cryptocorn, Anubias plants is another really good one. You know, what else did I get? The Crimicallum stratum, the Bacopa. Crypts are probably my favorite plant that's super easy to grow. And there's plenty of varieties. You can actually get something different. You know, find what you actually like, what fits your tank, what fits your style. So again, thank you to Bay Area Aquatics, Michael, for giving his opinion, giving his input. And guys, if you're excited to see what we got going on down here, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Construction starts soon. You're not gonna wanna miss it. I'm gonna try and keep you up to date as fast as I can with the editing and the filming. But thank you again, and make sure to subscribe to Guppy Guru. You're not gonna wanna miss the continuation of this video with him. But thank you everybody so much for joining me, and we'll see you guys in the next one.